All right. And while she's doing that, and you guys can go ahead and kind of fill out that survey as we go through the workshop. But I'll go ahead and get started. So this week we're going over APA formatting. Last week, as I already kind of alluded to, we did a workshop on MLA formatting. There's a lot of similarities, but there's also some important differences. So you'll notice some of the things we go over are going to be the same, and some of them will be quite different. So first off, let's start off with a bit of background. What is APA, and what is APA style? Well, APA is like MLA, it's a formatting style for writing, and it tells you how to organize your content. It gives you an idea for what kind of writing style you should use. It outlines citation methods, and it gives you guidelines for publication, just like MLA. The difference then is who uses MLA, or what MLA is good for. And I'm sorry, not MLA, APA. APA is primarily used in social sciences and academics. APA actually stands for the American Psychological Association, so it's made by psychologists for psychologists. As such, it's used most commonly in psychology. It's also used in sociology, economics, and business. It's also commonly used for laboratory reports. It's perhaps the most common citation method used in higher education. MLA and APA are somewhat used interchangeably in higher education, but APA is usually going to be what you use whenever you're getting your associate's or bachelor's degree. And from then on, you kind of specialize into other citation methods. All right, so let's start off with some of the basics of formatting an APA essay. These are going to be, again, kind of similar to what we saw with MLA. The first thing is that you need to have 1-inch margins. This is standard, and this is relatively easy to change in Microsoft Word. So here you can see the difference between 1-inch margins and half-inch margins. In Microsoft Word, you want to go to, on the top of the screen, you want to go to the Layout tab. Under the Layout tab, on the left-hand side, there's a Margins drop-down button. You click on Margins. The second option will be Normal, and that will be, again, your standard. The next thing is that you need to have a legible font, and just like with MLA, it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific font. The important thing is that your font is unique. It has a unique irregular font, a unique italic font, and a unique bold font. Most commonly, you'll use Times New Roman, font size 12. And in order to change that within Microsoft Word, again, you're just from the Home tab, which will be your default, so you won't need to switch to Home. So you'll just go to the Home tab, and underneath that, there's the Font section. There's a drop-down arrow for your font. You'll just go in there and select Times New Roman, and then to the right of that, you have a drop-down arrow for selecting your font size, so you just go in there and select size 12. Other acceptable fonts within APA, and there are not just these four, there are quite a few you can use, include Calibri, Arial, and Georgia, all at font size 11. Font size 11 of these fonts is comparable in size to Times New Roman and font size 12. So even though it's a smaller font size, they're bigger letters in general, so you decrease the font size to make them about equal. Next thing is that you need to make your essay double-spaced. This is, again, just like with MLA. Double spacing is pretty easy to change, also within the Home tab in Microsoft Word. Under the Paragraph section, you're going to click on the little arrows button that indicates the spacing. You're going to change it from the default of 1.0 or single spacing to 2.0 or double spacing. And then finally, you also need to have your page number in the top right corner, just like this. And this is also relatively easy to change. Within the Insert tab, which is the third tab on the top, you want to go About 2/3 over to the right, and under the header and footer section, the third option is page number. If you click on the drop down arrow, then top of page, which is the first option, then you go down to the third option there, that is plain number 3. So it's going to put a number on the right side of your paper. Now, it is worth noting that in a professional paper, maybe something if you're seeking publication, which none of you guys would be really looking at right now, but maybe in a future setting, you would also include your title on your page. However, in student work, you're not expected to have your title at the top of your page. You're only expected to have a page number. Okay. All right. The next thing that's important for an APA essay is a title page and an abstract. So the first thing is with MLA, and this is the first major difference, is that MLA had no title page. With APA, a title page is required. So let's go through some of the important things that you need on a title page. The first thing is going to be the title of your paper. The title of the paper should be in bold font and it should be centered. Next, you need the author's name. The author's name should be in the format where you have the first name, middle initial, and last name. Next, you need the institution, which would be your school. So in this case, you would probably say Del Mar College, and then you would have the department that you're in. If you're doing an APA essay in the style of a student, you would also include the course number and name. You would include the instructor's name, and you would include the assignment due date. Finally, you want, again, to have everything double-spaced and centered. And here you'll notice at the top right corner, the page number is included even on the title page. Next thing is the abstract page. Now, the abstract page is not necessarily required. Abstract pages are used for longer essays or whenever you're doing a publication. If your professor doesn't ask for an abstract, then you can assume that you do not need one. Abstracts are mostly used, again, for research, but they're sometimes used by students. An abstract looks something like this. An abstract, like a title page, is its own page, and it's made up of 3 things. The first thing is you have your abstract title. You don't actually have to write a title, you just put abstract. And that's going to be, again, bold and centered above the text. And then your abstract itself is a short 250 word or less summary of what your paper is about. This is used for researchers or for other people looking through a large sum of work. So maybe they're looking at your paper and then 20 other papers. They look at the abstracts to get a general idea of what they're going to read, so they don't spend too much time reading through papers that aren't going to be useful for them. You'll notice as well with the abstract there's no indent on the paragraph. So normally a paragraph has a 1-inch indentation at the beginning. And with the abstract you have no indentation. Finally, you have keywords. Keywords here, you'll notice a couple things. A keyword, the word keywords is italicized. And then we have a colon, and then we have a couple of keywords here. These are quick reference points. And these are used, again, for if you want to help people find relevant work to what they're researching. And I mentioned all this stuff about the abstract page, maybe not necessarily because you'll be writing an abstract page yourself, but so that you understand its purpose for if you and when you need to read research in various fields for maybe a project in one of your classes. All right, so the next thing we need to get into is citations. Now this is maybe one of the most important things. And we'll go on a little more detail here. So first off, what is a citation? A citation is a short paragraph detailing the source of outside information. This should include the author's name, and in APA format, it's standard to have the last name first, then the first initial, and middle initial. This is different than with the MLA format, so it's worth noting here. Then you also need the title of the source, the version or number, a publisher, publication date, and location. And at the end, and this is going to be placed at the end of the work in a references pages. Whereas in MLA it was a works cited page, this is going to be on the references page. Next, what is an in-text citation? An in-text citation is a short parenthetical or parentheses note indicating a reference. So this is used for direct quotations, paraphrasing, and generalization. So it's not just if you have quotation marks, you're quoting something directly. If you're paraphrasing something or you're making generalizations based on something that you've read, you still need to give a citation for that information. All right. So the first type of citation that you're going to see in APA, and the most common here, is going to be author date style. And this is used whenever you're making a summary or a paraphrase, so not when you're using a direct quote. So here I've got this cut off because it's kind of long, but here we have further exposure to the stimuli no longer provokes a negative response. Now here you'll notice we have the last name of the author, Ochterberg, 1985. So with MLA you have the author's name and then a page number. Here with APA you have the author's last name, comma, and then the publication year. Here we have another example, just like with MLA. If you introduce the author's name, so Lange here, you don't need to include the author's name within the parenthetical. So we can say Lange, and then parentheses, 1982, underscore two such beliefs, or two such benefits. Oh, okay, well. Next we have the author date page for direct quotes. So whenever you have a direct quote, when you have a quotation mark, you, in this case, like whenever it's a direct quote, you're not paraphrasing it. In this case, you need to include the page number. So in this case, you still have the author's last name, the publication date, but you also have the page. And just like with MLA, whenever you're quoting a single page, you use the letter P and then the page number. And if you have two pages, you have PP and then the page range. So in the first one, we have page 850. Second one, we have pages 199 to 201. Next, when we have an unknown author or a corporate source, so here we see a majority of Americans experience stress in their daily lives. This is from the American Psychological Association 2017. So here you'll notice instead of an author's last name, you simply have the name of the organization or the name of the work. Next, when we have multiple authors, again, the quote doesn't really matter here. What we're interested in here is the parenthetical at the end. So here you will notice McGuigan and Lair. You'll notice that whereas in MLA, when you had two authors, you would have McGuigan and the word and spelled out, Lair. Here we have the ampersand sign. So minor difference, but important. In the second one here, when we have more than two authors, when we've got a large number of authors, we say the name of the first author or the primary author. So in this case, Schwitz, and then you say et al., which is Latin for and others. And then those will be listed at the end of your paper in the references. All right, and then one other thing that's different in APA is what you do when you have a long quotation. A quote that is 40 words or more. So first, a long quotation will be given a separate paragraph. This paragraph will be introduced with a signal phrase. So the signal phrase is generally going to include the author's name and the publication date from which you're quoting. Then the quote itself will be indented 1/2 inch out, so it would be like a normal tab. Then you'll notice that the quote itself also does not have any quotation marks. Finally, the parenthetical with the page numbers will follow at the end of the block quote. And then at the end, you'll notice the following paragraph or the following text is not indented. That's so it doesn't look like it's a continuation of the quote from the previous line. All right, and the last thing we want to talk about here is the references page. So just like with MLA, your references page needs to be on a new page. Even if your previous page had just started off, you want to start a new page for your references page. This is easy to do within Microsoft Word. You go to the third tab over, you go to Insert, and then on the left side you'll have the Pages subsection. The third option under the Pages subsection is Page Break, and that will just create a new page at the place of your cursor. All right. So next, the next thing you'll notice about the references page is that you need to center and bold the text references, just like with abstract. Next, you'll notice that the citations, just like with MLA, are given in hanging indents. It can be done. You can create hanging indents in one of two ways. First, you can select your text, then right-click and select paragraph. Or you can select your text and then under the Home tab on the paragraph subsection in the bottom right corner there is a paragraph sections button. There's paragraph settings button. If you click on either one of those, you'll get the paragraph pop up here. And then around in the center of this window, in the indentation section, you want to find the special drop down arrow. Click on that and select hanging. And that will give you your hanging indents. Finally, the last thing you want to note about references on your APA sources is that you need to sort them alphabetically. So here you can see Achterberg comes before the American Psychological Association. All right, so now I'm going to give you all a live demonstration of how we can create a citation for our essay. Okay. So for last week's workshop, what I did was I used I used a quote from Animal Farm, which is a classic literature piece. But for this week, since it's APA, I thought it would be more fitting to use a quote from a science textbook. So here we're going to use a quote from this book here, Wind Energy Engineering. So, wind rotors in idealized conditions can extract at most, it's kind of hard to type with one hand, 59.3% of energy contained in the wind. Quote. Let's go ahead and fix my fat finger there. Alright, and the author of this book is Pramod Jain. So this will be Jain. And this book is published, let's see here, in 2016. And this is a direct quote, so we need a page number, and this is from page 24. And we need, since it's a single page, single P for one page. And finally, our period should actually come after the end of our parenthetical. So that's our in-text citation. Now we need to create a citation for our references page. So just like last week, I'm going to use the citation machine, which is an online resource that allows you to quickly create citations. This greatly speeds up and helps you to create citations. Um, you don't have to do it this way, but it makes it a lot easier. Before I can do that, I need to disable my ad blocker. All right. So we're going to be citing a book, and we're going to be citing wind energy engineering. And this is going to be, yep, the second one here. Continue. Blocker should be off. Refresh, I guess. Okay, go. Alright, I'll be citing the whole book. And I'm using the second edition. Okay. And here I just want to check all the information and make sure it's correct. So it says citing the whole book. Then author is Pramod Jain, that's correct. This is the correct title of the book. You'll notice that it did not capitalize the title of the book, so I'm going to go back in here and change that, fix that. Everything else here, okay, yeah, this is going to be New York City in New York State. Okay, I'm going to complete my citation to copy this citation. Now, before I do this, you'll notice here above my citation, you'll notice I've got a little drop down arrow. It says APA 6. Selected that by default, but we can actually go in here and change. So let's say if I wanted MLA 8, we could go in and change it like that. Now, also worth noting is that APA changed its formatting from APA 6 to 7 in late 2019, so some people are still using APA 6 instead of 7. Go ahead and use 7, though it won't make a real difference here in this case. Okay. Now I'm just going to go back to my paper here, and I'm going to paste it in, and we'll notice here it's done something weird with the spacing. So, backspace, there we go. Alright, so now this isn't a very long citation, so it doesn't have a hanging indent, but that's how we can go ahead and create our in-text citation and the references page citation to go along with it. Now with that, I want to go ahead and one more thing actually. Here I have a couple of references or resources that you can all use that will be helpful for you when setting up an essay in APA citation format. So this is true for both MLA and APA citation. But the Purdue OWL, or the Purdue Online Writing Lab, Purdue University, is very useful for formatting. It goes over everything you could possibly want to know about the APA citation format. Here I've got pictured list of MLA features that they have, but you can also go in with APA and they have much the same features. Next, the website I used today to show you how to create a citation was the citationmachine.net. This is a website that is owned by Chegg, so if you have a Chegg account, if you have the paid subscription, you can use the website without advertisements, which is nice. And then finally, I want to mention that Del Mar College has the Stone Writing Center, which is a 24/7 resource which can help you with your writing. You can sign up. You can go onto the website I've listed on the screen there, the offices/SWC, and from there, if you click on the online tutoring button, it will take you to Canvas, where they have a Canvas website set up where you can upload your essays and ask questions about them. You can also call them. However, while I've noted a location on the handout, for the time being, they're still online only. For the time being. And with that, I want to open it up now to questions.